Good evening, Uberus von Tuberus. I am back, and another Leafs report because they were in Arizona to take on the Coyotes last night. And as any NHL fan has heard over the last little while, Brendan Shanahan flew down to Arizona to fire Mike Babcock the other day before this latest game after their loss in Vegas a few days ago. I think I mentioned in one of my last ones that I thought if the Leafs don't start winning soon, I bet he's gone by December 1st. Well, I was wrong. He was gone a lot sooner. I thought they would have won a game or two in there to stop the bleeding, but they didn't end up winning the games. And there had already been lots of talk about his job security over the course of the start of this lousy season. And even last year there was talk about it too. Is he doing the right things for the team and that sort of thing? So, it, it's hard to pinpoint whether it's coaching, whether it's players, you just don't know. And, he's gone now. He's no longer coach of the Leafs. You can't deny that he did do some good things with the Leafs and has got the ball rolling there. But I guess it's going to be up to somebody else now to take them to the next level and push them, the next step. So, their new coach is Sheldon Keefe, who was the coach of the Toronto Marlies, their farm team, and he has some history with the GM Kyle Dubas because he coached for him in Sault Ste. Marie and that sort of thing. So he has no NHL experience. So we'll see how it all comes out. And he is familiar with a lot of the Leafs because a lot of them played for him for the Marlies before they got up to the big clubs. So there is some familiar. Oh my God, whatever. He's familiar with the players, a lot of them. So last night in Arizona, that was his first game being head coach of the Leafs now. And there were some minor tweaks to the lines. And as is usually the case when a coach gets fired from a team, the team usually responds to the next game with a big win. If they're in the middle of a slump and that's what's prompted the coaching change, they usually bust the slump with that first game with the coach, usually, at least from my experience. And the Leafs did that last night in Arizona. Overall, the stat categories were all very close. Like shots were close, face-offs were close. Arizona had to block a few more shots than Toronto. But overall, it was a fairly close game. I didn't get to watch it, unfortunately, because I was over at my buddy's house playing some old video games. And I assume the game was on Sportsnet, so I still have not watched Sportsnet, FYI, since the Don Cherry firing. And the longer I go, the easier it seems to get. And I'm kind of enjoying going like this to Sportsnet because the whole thing is ridiculous. And I'm probably going to mention this a lot this season, so just so you get used to it, because it has really, really, really pissed me off. Cowards. That's all they are, cowards. Anyways, there was a lot of good things about this game. It was close. It looked to be fast-paced and tight. Arizona's gotten a lot better in the last year or two, so they're not an easy out like they used to be. And even when they always played Toronto really well. But last night it seemed to be a really good game, and there were a few good signs that finally happened. The first goal of the game in the first period, right near the end in the last minute, Tyson Barrie, the defenseman that came over in the Nazem Kadri trade in the summer, a lot has been made of his poor start to the season. He's usually like a more offensive defenseman like Morgan Rielly, but he hasn't scored his first goal yet. I think he's got a few assists and stuff like that, but everybody was expecting more from him. And I'm not down on him at this point because I liked him when he was in Colorado. When they got him, I was sad to see Kadri go, but I was like, well, at least they got some good return on it, right? And so I've liked a lot of his games. He makes the odd blunder, but I think it's he's pushing. He's squeezing the stick. He's pushing really hard to make this transition and be a good Leaf. And sometimes when you try too hard, your performance goes in the complete opposite direction, right? So it was good to see him. There was a nice little passing play, and then he basically was untouched, walked into the hash marks, and just fired a nice short side wrist shot past Kemper to make it 1-0 Leafs. So that was really good to see. He's on the board with a goal now. Hopefully that gets the ball rolling for him. The monkey off his back. He can just settle in and be Tyson Barrie. Second period, Pierre Engvall drew into the lineup the previous game against Vegas as just a way to shake up the lineup a little bit, add some size because he's pretty big and he's young, and he's actually, for a big man, he's pretty fast. So he played a really good game in Vegas. He was one of the more noticeable Leafs, and last night Keefe had him on the penalty kill, and he scored the Leafs' second goal in the latter half of the period when killing a penalty, and he kind of got a quick little break and sprang out for a lead and did a little deke and tucked her home. So that was 2-0 Leafs after 2, and then not even a minute into the third period, Austin Matthews, the hometown boy, scored a nice goal on a bit of a weird bounce in front. It went off Nylander's side of his body and then bounced in front, and Matthews corralled it and just fired it in. So it was 3-0. Arizona added one within the last minute. I think the Leafs had, or Carolina. Oh, it's Friday night. They pulled Kemper, the Arizona Coyotes did. I think they had the net empty. I could be mistaken with that, but I thought they did. And they got one, but that was all they would do, and the Leafs would roll on to a 3-1 win, which was sorely needed. Now they're back to 500, but now they need to get on a roll because at this point in the season, being 500, it's not a hole to climb out of, but it's not an ideal situation either. They're going to have to win a lot more than they lose the rest of the year in order to qualify for the postseason. Some other positives. Fred looked like he was really on. Kerfoot was back in the lineup after his facial surgery, so that was good. And the Leafs, although they didn't get any power play opportunities, unfortunately, they had 3 against them, and their penalty killing was perfect 3 for 3. So that's encouraging as well. So some nice positives to come out of this game. And I'm not reading too far into it because, like I said, those first games after a coach is fired, the team usually comes together and fires off a good performance that usually results in a win. It'll be the games that come after it once they settle into this new situation with their new coach. That's when everything will be tested and stuff. So, and it's interesting that, you know, it happened. It was so urgent that they had to get it done that it happened right in the middle of a road trip, right? So, in Arizona. So. The whole thing was just crazy. The whole start of this year has been ridiculously crazy and ultimately very disappointing. So, but we'll see if Sheldon Keefe can get the Leafs turned into his vision of what they should be, and if that's going to do better than what Babcock had them doing. I sure hope it is, but we'll find out one way or the other. So until Sunday morning, the Leafs play Colorado Saturday night until Sunday morning or afternoon, depending on how ridiculously busy I am this weekend. It'll be sometime Sunday. So have a great weekend.